The meal that changed the world. Imagine a single meal so mysterious, so powerful, that it has divided empires, inspired revolutions, and drawn billions to their knees. A meal that for 2,000 years has been called everything from a miracle to a scandal. Some say it's just bread and wine. Others whisper it's the very body and blood of God. But what if I told you this ancient ritual is at the heart of the world's greatest mysteries and its greatest controversies? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see the Eucharist in a way you never have before. You'll discover secrets hidden in ancient texts, the drama of the first Last Supper, and why, even today, this ceremony can spark outrage, awe, and even war. Let's begin our journey at the very origin of the Eucharist, a story that starts not with peace, but with danger, betrayal, and a promise that would echo through eternity. The origin of the Eucharist in the Bible. Our story begins in Jerusalem, nearly 2,000 years ago. The city is tense. Roman soldiers patrol the streets. Religious leaders plot in the shadows. And in a small candlelit room, a group of friends gathers for a meal that will change the world. This is the night before Jesus is arrested. The air is thick with fear and anticipation. Jesus knows what's coming: betrayal, suffering, death. But instead of running, he sits down to eat with his closest followers. This isn't just any meal, it's the Passover, the most sacred feast in the Jewish calendar. A night when families remember how God freed their ancestors from slavery in Egypt. But tonight, Jesus does something shocking. He takes the bread, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to his disciples. Take, eat. This is my body. Then he takes a cup of wine. Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. Matthew 20. Can you imagine the confusion in that room? For centuries, the bread and wine of Passover had symbolized freedom from Egypt. Now Jesus says they are his own body and blood. The disciples don't understand, but they sense something world-changing is happening. This moment, the Last Supper, becomes the foundation of the Eucharist. It's repeated in the Gospels of Mark, Luke, and in Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. Paul writes, "For I received from the Lord what I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took bread." 1 Corinthians. But why did Jesus choose this moment, this meal, to reveal the mystery of the Eucharist? To answer that, we need to look deeper into what the Eucharist really is. What is the Eucharist? So, what is the Eucharist? Is it just a ritual, a symbol, or something more? The word Eucharist comes from the Greek Eucharistia, meaning thanksgiving. But for Christians, it's much more than gratitude. It's a sacred act, a mystery, a miracle. For Catholics and Orthodox Christians, the Eucharist is the real presence of Jesus, his body, blood, soul, and divinity under the appearance of bread and wine. This isn't just poetic language. They believe that when the priest says the words of Jesus, the bread and wine are transformed, even though they still look and taste the same. This is called transubstantiation. For many Protestants, the Eucharist, often called communion or the Lord's Supper, is a powerful symbol. It's a way to remember Jesus' sacrifice, to proclaim his death and resurrection, and to unite believers as one body. But for all Christians, the Eucharist is a mystery. It's a moment when heaven touches earth, when the past, present, and future come together in a single act of love. Let's pause for a moment. Imagine yourself in that upper room, surrounded by friends, fear, and hope. You hear Jesus say, "This is my body, this is my blood." What would you feel? Confusion? Awe? Maybe even fear? That's the power of the Eucharist. It's not just a ritual, it's an invitation to enter the greatest story ever told. How the ceremony is observed. But how is this ceremony actually observed? What happens when Christians gather to celebrate the Eucharist? Let's step inside a church. The air is filled with the scent of incense. Candles flicker. The congregation stands, sits, kneels, sings. At the heart of it all is the altar. A simple table, yet also a throne, a battlefield, a place of sacrifice. The ceremony begins with prayers, readings from the Bible, and a sermon. Then comes the most sacred moment, the consecration. The priest takes bread and wine, lifts them up, and repeats the words of Jesus, "This is my body, this is my blood." In that moment, something mysterious happens. Catholics and Orthodox believe the bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ. Protestants see it as a powerful remembrance, but all agree this is a moment of encounter with the divine. The faithful come forward, hands open or tongues outstretched, to receive the Eucharist. Some kneel, some stand. Some receive, under both kinds, bread and wine. Others only the bread. In some churches, the bread is a thin wafer. In others, it's a hearty loaf. The wine may be sipped from a common cup or given in tiny individual glasses. After communion, there is silence, prayer, thanksgiving. The ceremony ends with a blessing, a sending forth. But the effects of the Eucharist linger. For many, it's a moment of peace, healing, transformation. But where did this ceremony come from? Why did Jesus choose the Passover as the setting for the first Eucharist? The answer lies in the deep connection between Passover and the Eucharist. The connection between Passover and the Eucharist. To understand the Eucharist, we have to go back even further to the first Passover, thousands of years before Jesus. Picture ancient Egypt. The Israelites are slaves, crying out for freedom. God sends Moses to demand their release. Pharaoh refuses. Plagues strike the land. Finally, God gives a final warning. Every firstborn in Egypt will die unless the Israelites mark their doors with the blood of a lamb. That night, the angel of death passes over the homes marked with blood. The Israelites are spared. They eat a hurried meal, roast lamb, unleavened bread, bitter herbs, and flee into the night. This is the first Passover, a night of liberation, sacrifice, and new beginnings. Every year, Jews remember this night with a special meal. They eat the same foods, tell the same story, and thank God for freedom. Now fast forward to Jesus. He chooses Passover night for the Last Supper. But instead of the traditional words, he says, "This is my body. This is my blood." He becomes the new Passover lamb, whose sacrifice brings not just freedom from slavery, but freedom from sin and death. The connections are everywhere. The lamb's blood on the door becomes Jesus' blood on the cross. The unleavened bread becomes his body. The cup of wine becomes the new covenant. But there's more. In the Jewish Passover, there are 4 cups of wine. The third cup is called the cup of redemption. It's at this moment that Jesus says, "This is my blood." Then he says, "I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes." Luke 22:18. He leaves the 4th cup, the cup of praise, unfinished, pointing to the future, to the final victory of God. The Eucharist is the new Passover. It's a meal of liberation, sacrifice, and hope. But it's also a source of controversy, a controversy that has raged for centuries. The controversy surrounding the Eucharist. Why is the Eucharist so controversial? Why has it sparked debates, divisions, even violence? The first controversy began almost immediately. In the early days of Christianity, rumors spread that Christians were cannibals. Why? Because they spoke of eating the body and drinking the blood of Christ. Roman authorities were horrified. Secret police infiltrated Christian gatherings, looking for evidence of gruesome rituals. But the real controversies came later. In the Middle Ages, theologians argued, how can bread and wine become flesh and blood? Is it a physical change, a spiritual one, or just a symbol? In the 9th century, a monk named Radbertus insisted the change was real and physical. Another monk, Ratramnus, said it was spiritual. The debate raged for centuries. Then came the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther, a Catholic monk, broke with Rome. He believed in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, but rejected the idea of transubstantiation. Ulrich Zwingli, another reformer, said the Eucharist was purely symbolic. John Calvin took a middle path, saying Christ was spiritually present. These debates weren't just academic, they led to wars, persecutions, and the splintering of Christianity into hundreds of denominations. Even today, the Eucharist is a source of controversy. Who can receive it? Should it be open to all or only to the baptized? What about divorced and remarried Catholics? What about politicians who support abortion rights? In 2021, the US Catholic bishops debated whether to deny communion to President Joe Biden, a Catholic who supports abortion rights. The debate made headlines around the world. The Eucharist is a mystery, a miracle, and a scandal, but it's also a source of unity, a unity celebrated in a special feast called Corpus Christi. What is Corpus Christi? Let's travel to a small town in Spain. The streets are covered in flowers, bells ring. A procession winds through the city, led by priests carrying a golden monstrance, a sunburst-shaped vessel holding a single white host. This is Corpus Christi, the feast of the body and blood of Christ. It's celebrated on the Thursday after Trinity Sunday, usually in June. The feast was established in the 13th century after a nun named Juliana of Liège had visions of a shining moon with a dark spot symbolizing the lack of a feast, honoring the Eucharist. Pope Urban IV made Corpus Christi a universal feast in 1264 after a miracle in the town of Bolsena, Italy. A priest who doubted the real presence saw the host bleed during Mass. The blood stained the altar cloth, which is still displayed in the cathedral today. Corpus Christi is a day of joy, celebration, and public witness. In some countries, it's marked by elaborate processions, music, dancing, and even fireworks. In others, it's a quiet day of prayer and adoration. But at its heart, Corpus Christi is about the Eucharist, the mystery of God made present in bread and wine. How is Corpus Christi connected to the Eucharist? Corpus Christi isn't just a feast. It's a declaration, a public proclamation of faith in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. During the procession, the consecrated host is displayed in a monstrance and carried through the streets. People kneel as it passes. Flowers are strewn in its path. Bells ring. It's a powerful reminder that the Eucharist isn't just a private devotion. It's the heart of Christian life, the source and summit of faith. The feast also has a deeper meaning. In the Middle Ages, many people received communion only once a year, at Easter. Corpus Christi was a way to encourage more frequent reception of the Eucharist and to deepen devotion to the sacrament. Today, Corpus Christi is celebrated by Catholics, Anglicans, and some Lutherans. It's a day to remember that the Eucharist is not just a symbol, but a living reality. A reality that unites believers across time and space. But not all Christians see the Eucharist in the same way. Let's explore how different denominations observe and view this ancient ceremony. How different denominations observe and view the Eucharist. Christianity is a family with many branches. Each branch has its own way of celebrating the Eucharist. Catholic Church. For Catholics, the Eucharist is the source and summit of Christian life. Mass is celebrated daily. Only a priest can consecrate the bread and wine. Catholics believe in transubstantiation. The bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ. Only baptized Catholics in a state of grace can receive communion. Eastern Orthodox Church. The Orthodox call it the Divine Liturgy. The bread is leavened, and the wine is mixed with warm water. The Eucharist is seen as a mystery. How Christ is present is not explained, only believed. Communion is given under both kinds, often by spoon. Anglican and Episcopal churches. Anglicans have a wide range of beliefs. Some are close to Catholic teaching. Others see the Eucharist as symbolic. The ceremony is called Holy Communion or the Lord's Supper. Both bread and wine are given to the faithful. Lutheran Church. Lutherans believe in the real presence. Christ is truly present in, with, and under the bread and wine. They reject transubstantiation, but affirm that communion is more than a symbol. Reformed and Presbyterian churches. These churches see the Eucharist as a memorial. Christ is present spiritually, not physically. Communion is usually celebrated monthly or quarterly. Baptist and Evangelical churches. For Baptists, the Lord's Supper is a symbolic act of obedience. It's a time to remember Jesus' death and look forward to his return. Grape juice is often used instead of wine. Pentecostal and non-denominational churches. Practices vary widely. Some celebrate communion weekly, others monthly or less often. The focus is on personal relationship with Jesus. Despite these differences, the Eucharist remains a powerful symbol of unity, a unity that is often challenged by controversy. What should a modern Christian do about the Eucharist? So, what does all this mean for you? How should a modern Christian approach the Eucharist? First, approach with awe and humility. The Eucharist is a mystery, a gift, a challenge. It's not just a ritual, but an encounter with the living God. Second, seek understanding. Read the Bible, study the teachings of your church. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to wrestle with doubts and difficulties. Third, participate fully. If you're Catholic or Orthodox, prepare by going to confession. If you're Protestant, approach with faith and gratitude. If you're not sure what you believe, come with an open heart. Fourth, let the Eucharist change you. It's not just about receiving, it's about becoming. The Eucharist calls us to love, to serve, to forgive. It's a source of strength for the journey of life. Finally, remember that the Eucharist is a foretaste of heaven. It points to the day when all God's people will gather at the great banquet, when every tear will be wiped away and death will be no more. But even as we look to the future, the Eucharist remains a source of controversy, controversies that are making headlines even today. Current controversies in the news about the Eucharist. The Eucharist is not just an ancient ritual, it's a living reality, and it's making news around the world. In recent years, debates have erupted over who can receive communion. In the United States, some bishops have called for denying communion to politicians who support abortion rights. The debate reached a fever pitch in 2021, when President Joe Biden, a Catholic, continued to receive communion despite his pro-choice stance. Some bishops supported him, others called for discipline. In Germany, a group of Catholic bishops has pushed for intercommunion, allowing Protestants married to Catholics to receive the Eucharist. The Vatican has pushed back, warning of division. In the Amazon region, the shortage of priests has led to calls for allowing married men to celebrate the Eucharist. The debate has sparked fierce arguments about tradition, change, and the future of the Church. In some places, the COVID-19 pandemic forced churches to suspend public masses. Some offered spiritual communion online. Others debated whether drive-in or to-go communion was valid. And in 2023, Pope Francis issued new restrictions on the traditional Latin Mass, sparking protests from traditionalist Catholics who see the old rite as a treasure. The Eucharist is at the center of these debates. It's a source of unity, but also of division. It's a sign of God's love, but also a challenge to our understanding. The invitation. As we come to the end of our journey, let's return to that upper room in Jerusalem. The candles flicker, the bread is broken, the wine is poured. Jesus looks at his friends, at us, and says, "Do this in memory of me." The Eucharist is a mystery, a miracle, a meal. It's a story that began in fear and ended in hope. It's a gift that invites us to believe, to belong, to become. So, what will you do with this invitation? Will you approach the altar with awe? Will you let the Eucharist change your heart? Will you join the great procession of believers from Jerusalem to Rome, from ancient catacombs to modern cathedrals, from the first Passover to the last day? The choice is yours. The story continues, and the table is set. If this story moved you, if you learned something new, or if you have questions, let's keep the conversation going. Like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. What does the Eucharist mean to you? How has it changed your life? What questions do you still have? Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, may the peace of Christ be with you.